Intersectionality to me means like understanding the different layers of all of us.
I think that it's important that people know that intersectionality isn't just random identities in the mix. It's identities that are marginalized, intersecting and coming together.
You could be Black, you could be a woman, you could be trans, you could be Muslim, you could be a beautiful Black Muslim trans woman, and you still deserve the engagement from all four of those communities. And that's intersectionality to me.
And some Democrats even proposed a measure that would force the release of thousands of criminal illegal aliens.
And for the road that you now have to walk.
I don't need you to be sorry, because I can't do nothing when I'm sorry, okay? I need you to pray for me, because we got this. We tired of the sorries and they're trying to exploit our pain and all that. Okay, we're trying to move forward. We're trying to bring peace and justice. We want community centers, resource centers, libraries, our own security teams. We're trying to get it for us, for Zoe, for Stephon Clark.
There are other people's stories to tell tonight. There are stories of survival. I've spent much of the day talking to people who have survived, people who've lost partners and loved ones. Joshua Lewis and Richard Aiken were at Pulse Saturday night. Joshua actually managed to get out of the club while his friend Richard was held hostage in a bathroom stall with several other people and could hear the shooter talking.
Our voices like don't get heard a lot, especially in like times right now with like Donald Trump as president. I feel like now it's more than ever, like we kind of really have to take a stance on who we are and kind of just voice, our rights and our opinions, and because if we just like stay quiet or we don't get as engaged, we can just get overshadowed and we get just like lost in the shuffle, and then we might eventually like maybe set ourselves back.
As soon as I came into college and I guess like I started educating myself and, being like the woke person that I am. It means a lot because as a Latina, as a woman, as an immigrant, there are a lot of things that are against me.
I'm brown, I'm Latinx, I'm queer, I'm undocumented, and I can't separate one identity over the other. I have to live with those together.
Very privileged woman. I'm a cisgendered woman. I'm a white woman. So while I have things to fear, and while I am affected by patriarchy, hypermasculinity, and misogyny, there are other women and non-cisgendered people who experience the oppression of women in an entirely different way.
So intersectionality should always be acknowledged in pursuit of civic engagement, because there are so many issues that are on the table, and the way that we kind of view them is that, this issue is up to your community to figure out, and then that issue is up to this community to figure out. And so when you really acknowledge intersectionality within the people who are dealing with these issues, then it can bring communities together.
We tend to see a lot of things happen in our country, or a lot of things will happen in this world, and you will only see the group that it's affecting stand up and do something about it. And to me, that's not being very civically engaged. Civically engaged is to be a public servant, to be involved in your community. A lot of people think of civic engagement as just voting, but it's a lot more than that. It's things like getting involved with local politics, whether that be sending letters to local politicians, going to their office, taking part in protests, fundraising for a cause, donating for a cause, going to volunteer at the local food bank. Like, this is how you are civically engaged and you actively have a role in what's happening.
It's really important for everybody, especially immigrant people, to be involved, because a lot of the times we're told that we don't have a voice. And I think that a lot of the focus is put on voting, and I don't think that should be the end all. It's super important for immigrant people, especially undocumented people who can't vote, to be engaged.
Inspired by a social media campaign, the Me Too March followed a series of accusations by men and women who said they were...
It's really hard to watch the news and see what has happened in this country and in the world, and continue to watch it, the effects of colonization and imperialism and patriarchy and capitalism, because they are not mutually exclusive. and not be engaged in the community and working with people that's affected by it.
I mean, because it all affects us. We're all the same. It affects us all in one way or another, especially like when it comes to things like politics and policies. Like, it all affects us so much differently, but it still is all affecting us, if you understand what I'm saying. So that is why it's important for other marginalized groups to understand intersectionality and understand the intersectionality of other marginalized groups. That way we can fight together versus fighting amongst each other, because if we fight together, we have a better chance of moving along and like pushing things that we need for all marginalized communities.
Maybe like open discussions or open forums where we can all kind of hear each other's different, like walks of life or different paths or hardships that we've taken, kind of use that knowledge and maybe apply that into something like forward in the future, kind of like find ways to kind of build a bridge between each other and maybe understanding everyone else a little bit better, as keeping more of an open mind.
I think it's really important for all of us to unite beyond or outside of a struggle, because I think that a lot of times when different communities come together, and by different communities I mean groups of people that don't share the same identities, I think that a lot of times when we come together is because we're under attack, we're under a crisis, and I don't think that's the only time we should come together. I think that we should also come together when we're happy and to celebrate our communities and our people.
When we come together as a mass of unity, that's when we can accomplish the most. So,
seeing one another, respecting one another, listening to one another, and just continuing to find ways to creatively support one another. So we can't have the liberation of one group and not the other.
Can't put a blanket over it. It's not one solution fixes all. You have to really work to understand intersectionality and understand that if you want freedom for everybody in that community, then it has to be literally everybody in that community. Nobody can be left out.
And I feel like we live in an era where people are starting to compare their oppressions. It's like, well, my ancestors were this and your ancestors were this, so that makes me at a lesser point than you. And so that then creates conflict between marginalized groups. And I think that that's an idea that we really need to get rid of in order to move forward, because we're not going to get anywhere in these small numbers of marginalized groups unless we bring everybody together, and then we'll be able to rightfully make progress, move forward, and do something better.
Well, I definitely say that it would be getting better from when I was younger, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Draw on your similarities, be inclusive, and unite. Then when something needs changing, we can change it for the better of everyone. We are powerful together, and people, no matter how different, can come together to make great strides of change.